again a deeper cry of death. Mighty art thou, with the dread goddess filled, to whom thou criest at dawn in the dim wood. Use not thy strength like the wild Titan soul. Touch not the seated lines, the ancient lore. Respect the calm of great established things. But Savitri replied to the huge god, what is the calm thou vowest, O Lord, O death? I trample on thy law with living feet, for to hide in freedom I was born.
Good morning. So we're continuing in Book 10, Canto 4, the dream twilight of the earthly real, and we've come to page 650, about line 331. So the debate between Savitri and death continues, each arguing their different views of reality. In the last reading, we had some significant exchanges between them. On page 648, towards the top, the third line, Savitri is arguing her perspective, her view of existence. She says, the world is a spiritual paradox invented by a need in the unseen, a poor translation to the creature's sense of that which forever exceeds idea and speech, a symbol of what can never be symbolized, a language mispronounced, misspelt, yet true. Its powers have come from the eternal heights and plunged into the inconscient, dim abyss, and risen from it to do their marvelous work. The soul is a figure of the unmanifest. The mind labors to think the unthinkable, the life to call the immortal into birth, the body to enshrine the illimitable. The world is not cut off from truth and God. In vain thou hast dug the dark, unbridgeable gulf. In vain thou hast built the blind and doorless wall. Man's soul crosses through thee to paradise. Heaven's sun forces its way through death and night. Its light is seen upon our being's verge. And as she continues, she explains or describes that even now the light of the divine is near, that we have glimpses of it, that we can begin to feel the divine's touch. And then she says, if that is so, what then can hinder God from stealing in, or who forbid his kiss on the sleeping soul? And then in the last section that we read, it was prefaced by a long statement by the narrator, and it was describing the change that is coming over death as the twilight grows, as the light increases. His mood, his perspective also begins to change, to soften. And I'll just read a little of that. Then rang again a deeper cry of death, as if beneath its weight of sterile law, oppressed by its own obstinate, meaningless will, disdainful, weary, and compassionate. It kept no more its old, intolerant sound, but seemed like life's in her unnumbered paths, toiling forever and achieving naught because of birth and change, her mortal powers by which she lasts around the term post, fixed, turning of a wide, circling, aimless race, whose course forever speeds and is the same in its long play with fate and chance and time, assured of the game's vanity, lost or won, crushed by its load of ignorance and doubt, which knowledge seems to increase and growth to enlarge. The earth mind sinks, and it despairs and looks old, weary, discouraged on its work. Yet was all nothing then, or vainly achieved? Some great thing has been done, some light, some power delivered from the huge inconscious grasp. It has emerged from night. It sees its dawns, circling forever, though no dawn can stay. Yeah, he's describing death and the change that is coming over death, and he's comparing it to life, who's grown weary, seeing that no change, deliverance is coming, even though we continue to toil and suffer and strive. Yet it seems aimless, meaningless, without denouement, without any deliverance or culmination. So life is also growing weary and tired of this. But she has come, to deliver, to provide this final culmination. So we continue from there, and let's start over here.
This change was in the Godhead's far-flung voice. His form of dread was altered and admitted our transient effort at eternity, yet flung vast doubts of what might else have been on grandiose hints of an impossible day. The great voice, surging, cried to Savitri, "Because thou knowest the wisdom that transcends both veil of forms and the contempt of forms, arise delivered by the seeing gods. If free, thou hadst kept thy mind from life's fierce stress, thou mightst have been like them, omniscient, calm. But the violent and passionate heart forbids. It is the storm bird of an anarch power that would upheave the world and tear from it the indecipherable scroll of fate. There's rule and law and the unknowable will. Hasteners to action, violators of God, are these great spirits who have too much love. And they who formed like thee, for both art thou, have come into the narrow bounds of life with too large natures overleaping time. Worshippers of force who do not recall, their giant wills compel the troubled years.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So death replies to Savitri, and he begins to admit that Savitri herself may transcend life and the veil of forms, and also the contempt or disdain of forms. So he says, arise, delivered from this by the seeing gods. And he suggests that she should look on all that is occurring, all of these forms, all of this circling forever of life, standing back from it or above it as a witness, not immersed in it, not caught up in it. If she would stand back, she could be free. But something in her heart refuses to accept it the way it is. But the violent and passionate heart forbids. It is the storm bird of an anarch power that would upheave the world and tear from it the indecipherable scroll of fate. She wants to seize the significance and meaning of this life, and she wants to change its course. She wants to upheave death's rule and law and unknowable will. She wants to change this course of life. He says, hasteners to action, violators of God are these great spirits who have too much love. So he's describing her. She's too quick to action in trying to change this world. Too sensitive, compassionate for those who suffer. And there's this curious line, and they who formed like thee, for both art thou. I know it suggests to me that the beings who are formed like her, are like her, or maybe it's referring, I don't know, to Savitri and the Supreme Divine Mother, but I was thinking of others in the world who kind of embody or project her will, her light, her force in the world, and that she is also them. It's not clear if he's referring to the Supreme Divine Mother and her embodiment in Savitri, or this latter significance of others who are like her, like Savitri. But he's saying they have come into the narrow bounds of life with too large natures, overleaping time. Worshippers of force who know not her recoil. Their giant wills compel the troubled years.
Do you think that could refer to all the saints and sages?
Yeah,
ages?
that's what it sounds like, yeah, to me.
And spirits were too much love.
Yeah.
And he says this.
Yeah, so he's putting it in plural for one thing, so he's referring to any number of beings who may kind of represent the Divine Mother here and her action in the world. But that line or that clause, for both art thou, is significant, I think, because it suggests they are just parts and parcels of her. So let's continue. Helmut.
The wise are tranquil. Silent, the great hills rise ceaselessly towards their unreached sky. Seated on their unchanging base, their heads dreamless in heaven's immutable domain. On their aspiring tops, sublime and still, lifting halfway to heaven the climbing soul, the mighty mediators stand content to watch the revolutions of the stars. Motionless, moving with the might of earth, they see the ages pass and are the same. The wise think with the cycles. They hear the tread of far-off things, patient, unmoved. They keep their dangerous wisdom in their depths restrained, lest man's frail days into the unknown should sink, dragged like a ship by bound Leviathan into the abyss of his stupendous seas. Lo, how all shakes when the gods tread too near. All moves, is in peril, anguished, torn, upheaved. The hurrying aeons would stumble on too swift if strength from heaven surprised the imperfect earth, and veilless knowledge smote these unfit souls.
Thank you. Let's pause. So again, in the first part, he's advocating this kind of spirituality where the person stands above all this movement and change of the world, high above in some spiritual calm, looking down on it, but unmoved, unaffected by all that happens here. They see the ages pass and are the same. And then the wise think with the cycles. They hear the tread of far-off things. Patient, unmoved, they keep their dangerous wisdom in their depths restrained. So he suggests they look on, perhaps see the unrolling of fate in the world, but they keep that knowledge, that wisdom within themselves. They don't share it with the world or use that wisdom to somehow intervene in the world's unfolding. And then there's this reference to Leviathan, lest man's frail days into the unknown should sink, dragged like a ship by bound Leviathan into the abyss of his stupendous seas. Yeah, I'm going to go into that. So yeah, I found that interesting. And so turn to my friend ChatGPT, and he explained quite a bit about it. There are some references in ancient Greek mythology. It's not named Leviathan, but of this. Well, in that kind of Greek mythology, there was like one body of land, like in a circle, a disk, surrounded by an ocean, which was kind of representing the unknown and kind of danger beyond. And there was this kind of sea monster coming out from those depths, let's say. So I won't go into those Greek things, but maybe, similar point in time. Also, there's a reference to this Leviathan in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And I can read a little of that. So now this is from ChatGPT. I don't know how exact it is, but it's citing some lines from Job 41. So I'll read this. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be sundered. By his nestings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone. yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raises up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all things high. He is a king over all the children of pride. Okay, so very interesting. Take a long time just to analyze all the suggestions in there.
I was thinking that you're into a movie.
Oh.
It's a big whale.
This is a movie story.
Mm. Yeah, I think, it's interesting. Yeah, I think there's also some, more modern references to it in some later poems and in perhaps this Moby Dick representing that.
My understanding is it's a huge sea animal,
Mm.
and the ships think it's land, or it's big.
Right.
They hook into it.
Right.
The ship is brought down.
Right. Right.
That's the organizers.
Yeah, it's such a huge thing that it looks like an island, and they kind of go.
There,
Yeah.
and then it moves and goes down under the sea.
Right. But psychologically, it seems to represent these powerful forces that are hidden in the subconscious. And we could say, even more, these kind of anti-divine forces that are there obstructing the deliverance of Earth in its evolution, the dangers that are there. And this kind of passage kind of warns about its dangers and suggests don't kind of play with it and, keep distance or keep safe around it.
It sounds like a projection of the ego in one. An internal thing in the subconscious.
Yeah. So yeah, we all kind of, in a way, carry these representations of it in ourselves. Some of these forces also are working in us.
That's why Moby Dick is such an excellent layout.
Mm.
His problem.
It comes also in Paradise Lost by Milton.
Sure, Bindo liked that Paradise Lost, and he liked Dante so much. I wonder if it's in Dante also.
Yeah, I didn't see it in this, but I didn't explore too much. Here is some lines from Milton. Into this wild abyss, the womb of nature and perhaps her grave of neither sea, nor shore, nor air, nor fire, but all these in their pregnant causes mixed. And through the palpable, obscure, find out his uncouth way, or spread his airy flight upborne with indefatigable wings over the vast abrupt. And then ChatGPT says, this is not Leviathan directly, but it extends Milton's cosmology of the abyss, a realm without form, boundaries, or stable elements. Oh, and then there is apparently this line, the great Leviathan whom God of all his works created hugest that swim the ocean stream. So we get some better idea of this reference. One of these things that, like I'm kind of beginning to look into these references to these ancient myths, and I think one of the significant things is that it embodies Savitri in this greater body of literature extending over many centuries, even millennia, because there are so many references to the Vedas, which are so ancient. So it connects Savitri to all of this ancient tradition. I think it's important.
Inevitably, it seems, because Auroville went so deeply into both Western and Eastern thought that he connected to all of these things. So then, in order to express his spiritual experience in Savitri, he can pull from all of those sources, and it all comes out here. And whether we know really which direct references doesn't really matter so much if we can connect to that spirit behind the word, what it means, and then Savitri, takes on that mantric effect.
Yeah, there are these kind of archetypal stories and images and ideas that run throughout the course of humanity's literary history, let's say.
Yeah.
And so we can find, images of this myth of this sea monster, and its dangers and attacking humanity. You can see it in many different traditions. It may not be called Leviathan, or, it might be something else, but referring to these monsters of the deep, subconscious, unknown around us. And each of these many authors, too, in some of these traditions will build upon this myth and bring in new, kind of ideas and aspects into it, like Milton might do, or Homer does, or Hesiod, another Greek philosopher, poet. So each kind of builds on previous kind of descriptions and perceptions of what these myths represent. Perhaps becoming more kind of psychologically oriented as we progress through time. So let's continue. Maybe B? The deities, I believe.
The deities have screened their dreadful power. God hides his thought, and even he seems to err. Be still and tardy in the slow, wise world. Mighty art thou with the dread goddess filled, to whom thou criest at dawn in the dim woods. Use not thy strength like the wild Titan souls. Touch not the seated lines, the ancient laws. Respect the calm of great established things. But Savitri replied to the huge god, "What is the calm thou vauntest, O law, O death? Is it not the dull vision tread inert of monstrous energies chained in a stark round, soulless and stone-eyed with mechanic dreams? Vain the soul's hope if changeless law is all. Ever to the new and the unknown press on, the speeding eons justifying God. What were the earth's ages if the gray restraint were never broken and the glories sprang not forth, bursting their obscure seed, while man's slow life leaped hurried into the sudden splendid paths by divine words and human gods revealed?"
Thank you. Let's pause. So Death, at the end of his argument, again is urging Savitri to not intervene, not act. Be still and tardy in the slow, wise world. He admits now, maybe he sees more clearly, mighty art thou, with the dread goddess filled, to whom thou criedest at dawn in the dim woods. Use not thy strength like the wild Titan souls. So he's maybe recognizing that force within her, but he's saying, don't use that force. Be calm, look on the world dispassionately. Touch not the seated lines, the ancient laws. Respect the calm of great established things. And then Savitri replies, what is this calm thou vauntest, O law, O death? Is it not the dull vision tread inert of monstrous energies chained in a stark round, soulless and stone-eyed with mechanic dreams? And here it seems to refer back to this Leviathan, and in particular, dragged like a ship by bound Leviathan. So I was curious of that word bound. And so it seems that this Leviathan, this monster, is not, entirely free or independent. It has limits on its power. But here, Sri Aurobindo is, I think, referring back to that bound of monstrous energies chained in a stark ground, soulless and stone-eyed with mechanic dreams.
What is a stark ground?
It means going round in a circle. Stark, I don't know. I mean, it's
not a noun, it's a verb.
It's an adjective.
Adjective to.
Or an adverb, I guess, to round. No, in a stark round. So stark, it's just kind of out front, very obvious. Naked, you could say.
Basically, referring to the stars coming around the moon.
Well, they might be one representation of it, but we had, kind of looked at this description of death, comparing it to life, going round and round in a circle and never seeming to get out of that round, out of its course. It just seems to go back over the same things again. We have our revolutions, and then, the tyrants again take control, and we have to overthrow them again. Or we solve our difficulties, but then we create new problems. Or we have to face our problems again and again, and they never seem to end. The saints and the sages come and they go, and new ones come, and never anything seems to change.
The reference just before to the seated lines.
Yeah.
That to me is because these are the administrators and the judges, all in a line, next to the ancient laws.
Yeah.
So we say, don't touch that system.
Right.
Don't touch the government.
Right. But also, I mean, the laws of the universe, you know.
Yeah. But see the lines.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I just take it as a kind of synonym for fixed. You know, don't cross these lines.
I also see that he said, mighty after, and then this is that also wonderful. So that is really the negative, always looking at the negative part, but it's negative.
Well, dread is also kind of fearful or feared, the feared goddess. I mean, it could also be kind of an image of Kali. She is, you know, kind of dreadful in appearance, and people are afraid when seeing her. Yeah. Right, so she can be, she's doing a good thing, and Mahakali also, I think, is beautiful in appearance, but there are these other Kalis that are dreadful, but also, I mean, the force of Kali is the one that breaks these obstacles in the world and in us, and yeah, we have to, I mean, it's a force of destruction, but destruction also clears the way for new creation.
It reminds me that also Mother said that this all what they are lovely. She has good relations with them.
But how does death get away with saying that God erred? He then put himself in a higher perspective, saying that even though, you know, he's got the right answer and God is making mistakes.
It's a big allegation he's making.
Yeah, perhaps he's suggesting by this error that this world also is kind of a mistake, you know, or all these circumstances of life and its difficulties were perhaps a mistake God made.
We see the mistake of all these people coming in and trying to change the laws and everything. And, yes.
But she's saying we cannot just accept this fixed, interminable round of existence just the way it is. Why create this life if only it goes so far and never goes beyond a certain point? Ever to the new and the unknown, press on. The speeding eons justifying God. What were Earth's ages if the gray restraint were never broken and glory sprang not forth, bursting their obscure seed, while man's slow life leaped hurried into sudden splendid paths by divine words and human gods revealed. That's an interesting reference to human gods here. So he's saying, what is the point if it were not if these limits were not broken. And he puts them in this nice kind of context, bursting their obscure seed, as if these constraints are like the shell of a seed that is being broken. Let's continue. Brian? No.
Impose not upon sentient minds and hearts the dull fixity that binds inanimate things. Well is the unconscious rule for the animal breeds, content to live beneath the immutable yoke. Man turns to a nobler walk, a master path. I trample on thy law with living feet. For to arise in freedom I was born. If I am mighty, let my force be unveiled, equal companion of the dateless powers, or else let my frustrated soul sink down, unworthy of Godhead in the original sleep. I claim from time my will's eternity. God from his moment's death replied to her, why should the noble and the immortal will stoop to the petty works of transient earth, freedom forgotten and the eternal's path?
Okay, let's pause there. So she argues that this dull round, going round and round in these circles, never breaking through these limits, that's okay for animals, for the lower forms of life, but don't impose this kind of law on human beings. Man turns to a nobler walk, a master path. So he's suggesting man can go beyond these laws. And then she refers to herself, for to arise in freedom I was born. If I am mighty, let my force be unveiled, equal companion of the dateless powers. So she's suggesting that her force, her will, is equal to these fixed laws that restrain life to ignorance and suffering. Or if not, if I'm unable, let my frustrated soul sink down, unworthy of Godhead, in the original sleep. But then again, now she claims from time My will's eternity, God from his moments. She's arguing that she is not limited even by time, that she has an eternal self, an eternal being within her. But it suggests that human beings also have this freedom from time's laws. And then death replies, why should the noble and immortal will stoop to the petty works of transient earth? Freedom forgotten and the eternal's path. Saying if you have this freedom, this power, why worry about these transient creatures on earth? Live in your divine freedom. So we'll continue. Go up. No, please go to the top.
Or is this the high use of strength and thought to struggle with the bounds of death and time, and spend the labor that mighty arm the gods, and battle and bear agony of wants, to grasp that trivial joy that earth can guard in her small treasure chest of passing things? Child, hast thou trodden the gods beneath thy feet, only to win poor shred of earthly life? For him thou lovest, concealing the grand release, keeping from early rapture of the events. His soul the lentest details may have called. Are thy arms sweeter than the court of God? She answered that I trample on the road. The strong hand hew for me which planet our path. I run where his sweet, dreadful voice commands, and I am driven by the reins of God. Why dare he wields his scheme of mighty words, or filled infinity with his passionate breath? Or wherefore did he wield my mortal form, and slow in me his bright and proud desire? If not to achieve to flower in me to love, craving his human image richly shaped in thought and largeness and golden power.
Thank you. Let's pause there. So death continues this argument that he began in the last segment. Why should the noble and immortal will stoop to the petty works of transient earth? So he's saying, is this the great use of your strength and thought? The struggle that you've had to struggle with the bonds of death and time, and spend the labor that might earn the gods, and battle, and bear agony of wounds, to grasp the trivial joys that earth can guard. So you spending all of this power, this wisdom, in order to win back this transient being, Satyavan, this love of yours, in her small treasure chest of passing things. Child, hast thou trodden the gods beneath thy feet only to win poor shreds of earthly life? For him thou lovest, canceling the grand release. Now he's suggesting, this death of Satyavan. Here I'm freeing him from this suffering earth, and you want to take this away from him. Canceling the grand release, keeping from early rapture of the heavens, his soul, the lenient deities have called. Are thy arms sweeter than the courts of God? He's really changing his argument around here quite a bit. He's suggesting now you keep him from heaven and from God, But she answers, straight I trample on the road, the strong hand hewed for me which planned our paths. She's saying, I'm carrying out his will in me, and I run where his sweet, dreadful voice commands. I am driven by the reins of God. So she's saying, I'm carrying out God's will here. And then, again, she brings this argument. Why was all this created? Why did God create this world, if only to end in some constraint? Why drew he wide his scheme of mighty worlds, or filled infinity with his passionate breath? Or wherefore did he build my mortal form, and sow in me his bright and proud desires, if not to achieve, to flower in me, to love, carving his human image richly shaped in thought and largenesses and golden powers. She is embodying his force, his beauty, his thoughts here in the world. This is why he has created this world.
It's how he is then going back kind of as a personal attack. And now he's calling her a child. And he's saying that your little mortal drama with the sky doesn't fit into the grand form.
Yeah.
Keep repeating these things. She's trampling his laws with the living feet. And then he's trampling, and they keep trampling away, and then he comes back with noble again. And it's so interesting how he's sending now because he's running out of what he can say. And then she counters with the divine will. Now he is in control.
Yeah, so the argument is beginning to run out of steam for death. And yeah, he's beginning to approach his end. We're getting closer to his destruction. But I think I would just like to read one more, and then we'll kind of finish up where we had read through before. So Suresh, can you go down here and, okay, we'll do Naren. To Naren here.
Can wait are coming in its calm. Easy the heavens were to build for God. Earth was his difficult matter. Earth the glory gave of the problem and the race and strife. There are the ominous masks, the terrible powers. There it is greatness to create the gods. Is not the spirit immortal and absolved always, delivered from the grasp of time? Why came it down into the mortal space? A charge he gave to his high spirit in man and wrote a hidden decree on nature's tops. Freedom is this with ever sealed soul, large in life's limits, strong in matter's knots, building great staff of action from the worlds to make fine wisdom from coarse, scattered strands, and love and beauty out of war and night, the wager wonderful, the game divine. What liberty has the soul which feels not free, unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs, choosing his tyranny, crushed in his embrace. To seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circles of his arms, bows full of bliss beneath his mastering hands, and laughs in his rich constraints, most bound, most free. This is my answer to thy lords, O death.
Thank you. This is a very rich and powerful passage. We don't have maybe time to go into it in great depth, but a few significant points is that in the beginning, he's saying, easy the heavens were to build for God. Earth was his difficult matter. Earth, the glory gave of the problem and the race and the strife. So she really gives importance and significance to the earth and also its difficulties. But this is the problem that the divine has presented here for a great creation to solve all of these difficulties and to come to some culmination. And then she describes what that is, something of what the destiny of earth is. She says, freedom is this, with ever-seated soul, large in life's limits, strong in matter's knots, building great stuff of action from the worlds to make fine wisdom from coarse, scattered strands, and love and beauty out of war and night. The wager wonderful, the game divine. And then again, after she says, this kind of spiritual freedom, divorced from the world, that is not the answer, and it's not as a great realization as this. She says, to seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circle of his arms, bows full of bliss beneath his mastering hands, and laughs in his rich constraints, most bound, most free. This is my answer to thy lures, O death. Okay, so we're going to stop there. So for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to be out, and Shraddhavan's videos will be here. And perhaps we can continue somewhere close to where we are. I don't know. So we've just finished page 653, starting new paragraph 654. And in the next sections at the end of this canto, we see the end of death. So, thank you.
will stoop to the bidding works of consciousness, freedom flawed, and eternal thought. She answered, "Slave, I come along the road, the storm and choose for me, which land our path. Freedom in this universe, Lord in life's limits, strong in battle not, building heights of reflection from the world, to make fine wisdom from forth scattered flying, and love and beauty out the war and night, the labor wonderful, the game begun."
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.